Hi, everyone. It's another edition of the Edenwood Conservation Initiative Green Talk. And then for this month, we are proud to be hosting a great personality, a friend of the organization, and someone who is doing well in the field of conservation and the environment. And she works with the WWF, and we are so proud to be hosting Fideline. She's joining us from Cameroon on today's edition of our Green Talk. Fideline, you are welcome to the show.
Thanks, Olaoluwa, for inviting me to the show, and shout out for all the work you're doing with your organization and with Green Talk. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And then today too, and I won't be hosting the event alone. I have Grace, who is a team member, and she works directly with us at Edenwood. Grace, you are welcome too. Can you say hi?
Thank
Can I
you,
have a
sir.
few words from you?
It's nice to be here today. Thank you, sir.
All right. Okay. So let us kickstart. All right. Fideline, can we? All right. Before then, I would like us to know, I would like our audience to know that for today we shall be discussing people and SDG 15. And as you all know, that we have different goals of the SDG, and then we have a lot of stakeholders working on all those goals. But then for today's event, for today's talk, we'll be looking at how people are directly or should be involved, or let me say the roles that people are supposed to play in actualizing the SDG 15. All right, Fideline, let us kickstart. Can you give us what can you say concerning the SDGs? And or let me say, what are the SDGs?
Okay, thanks, Olua. So basically, the SDG is known as the Sustainable Development Goals, or the Global Goals, are actually a collection of 17 ambitious interwoven global goals designed to be a blueprint to achieving a better and more sustainable future for all. So this was agreed in 2015 at the United Nations Assembly by 193 governments. So the SDGs basically set out to achieve some of the biggest challenges of our time, and this includes ending poverty, restoring nature, curbing inequalities, tackling issues around climate change, and ensuring that all people enjoy peace and prosperity by 2030. So normally these goals are supposed to, they have to run from 2015 up to 2030. And these goals are actually a very significant change in international development, because the agenda is to be achieved in a balanced and integrated manner. That it looks at issues around social change, economic prosperity, and then also setting environmental prosperities. So what you achieve in one has a direct impact on what you achieve on the other. So briefly, this is what the SDGs are about. Yeah, so Sustainable Development Goals and four.
All right, thank you so much, Fidelin, for giving us a good background. Because I'm very sure we have some of the people that will be listening to this talk who do not have the full background idea as to what SDG entails. All right, Grace.
Yes, ma'am. So you mentioned that there are 17 SDGs. Can you?
Yes, they're actually 17 SDGs.
Okay, ma. So what is SDG 15 about, and what is the idea about the goal?
So basically, forest is one of the main sources of food. Like we know, many people depend on forest for food. The forest provides air, clean water, and it constitutes like habitats for millions of people and animals. And you will see that about 1.6 billion people depend on the forests for their livelihood, but the forest is being threatened by human activities. So actually, according to UNEP, for example, every minute, about 23 hectares of arable land is lost to drought and desertification. And every year we lose about 30 million hectares of forest. And like we have said, this forest is home to about 80% of all land-based species and provide livelihood to about 1.6 billion people. And it shows that this is a problem. And also we are facing an increasing trend when it comes to the loss of biodiversity. We are losing biodiversity at an alarming rate, and with about 22% of animals at the verge of extinction if we are not careful. And one of WWF's flagship reports, the Living Planet report of 2020, shows that our wildlife population has declined by about 68% since 1970. And so there's no signs in indicating that this trend is slowing at any point. So we see that it's important for us to take action to reverse this. So now, what is the response, or what is SDG 15 about? Like I said, SDG 15 is one of the 17 SDGs, and it is basically about life on land, like what happens on land. So the goal itself is focused on to protect, restore, and promote sustainable use of terrestrial ecosystems. So basically, sustainably managing forests, combating desertification, and halting and reversing land degradation, but more importantly, halting biodiversity loss. Because, like we have acknowledged before, the forest and biodiversity has a very important role to play. And we will observe that human activities, like we have already seen, has a direct impact on land. So this goal is basically aimed at ensuring that human activities do not have a negative impact on land. And that's why we have to take measures to combat desertification. We need to work towards curbing deforestation, and we need to take urgent action towards ending poaching and trafficking of protected species so that our wildlife doesn't go extinct. So all these different efforts, the aim of all these different efforts within this goal is actually to ensure that the benefits of land-based ecosystems, including sustainable livelihoods, will be enjoyed not just by us, but also by the future generation. So we want to give our children also the opportunity tomorrow to say, to have a better world where they can live in, and also see, have a visual of the forest that we are seeing today, and also some of the animals. We don't just want to tell our children these stories as tales, but we want them, for example, to be able to see the animals we are seeing today, to be able to also see our forest and live some of these benefits that we are enjoying. So that's what the goal on SDG 15 is about.
Wow, that is excellent. Thank you so much, Fideline, for telling us what the goal is about, and for giving a very strong background as to some of those things we also need to know concerning the Goal 15. All right, Fideline, moving forward, when you see, or let me say, when we see people, there are different perspectives that people might have, especially the individuals living closer to nature, people living closer to forests, people living closer to where the wildlife are. And then you can either see, and of course, we know that at some point, these people might want to encroach the forest, or let me say, go to disturb where the wildlife are, maybe poach, kill some of the animals, and then looking at people as a catalyst for change. And the change I want you to talk about now is the positive aspect of the change. How do you think or let me say, what do you think on people as a catalyst for positive change on environmental issues? How can this work? How can people be catalysts for positive change?
Thanks, Aloha. I really love that question. So, um, like you've said, I think change can only really be achieved when we all work together, as be it individuals, governments, businesses, civil society, local communities. We can all really achieve change when we work together. And like I said before, most of the impacts we are facing today is driven by human activities, which also means that we have the capability to reverse all these negative trends and work towards positive impact for the environment if we take steps in the right directions. So I think like it's very practical and simple. It's basically like as an individual making up your mind to saying that I'm going to embrace sustainability practices in my daily lives. It's about just deciding to, okay, I want to plant a tree. It's about deciding I'm going to use less of papers. It's about deciding in little things like, okay, maybe I'm going to print my document retro verso rather than maybe printing on one-sided. When you do this, you're preserving the forest because then you're curbing the number of trees that are used for the production of paper. It's about also turning off the lights when you leave your room, for example. It's about opening your windows and not putting on the ACs. So it's really it's really about these basic things, and it's about also governments putting in or embracing um, sustainable policies to drive our existence on our planet, because then our resources are not finite. So you see, it's about taking this a little actions at different level. It's about businesses deciding to say we are going to do production sustainably. So I think there is a responsibility at different levels. As an individual, you have your responsibility. As the government, you have your responsibility. As a civil society, you have your responsibility. As local communities, you have your responsibilities. You have communities that have just decided to plant trees in areas where there's degradation. That's a positive action that someone can take. So I think it's actually the conscious effort of making up your mind to really embrace sustainability in the way you live, but also more in really just taking actions on environmental protection generally, really making the conscious efforts to embrace basically sustainability in everything we do. So thinking about ourselves, but more importantly, thinking about the future generation.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Chris.
That was actually a beautiful answer, Ma, and it's really well explanatory. So you said is the SDG 15 is relative to sustainability, and
Yeah.
you mentioned that government should actually like um take policies that would sustain the forest. So are there like environmental policies already in place that supports the SDG 15?
Okay, thanks, Grace. So when I talked about SDG 15, I was highlighting like some of the main focus of SDG 15, and one of the main, there are about four key aspects when you look at SDG 15. So the first one is sustainable management of forests, and then we also have halting and reversing land and natural habitat degradation. You have combating desertification, and you have the fourth area is actually around stopping biodiversity loss. So these are the key areas when you look at SDG 14. And with regards to this, we have policies at the international level, the regional level, the national level, and we also have like maybe voluntary commitments when it comes to exploring solutions to combat all these different areas. So if you look at maybe stopping, I'm going to take stopping biodiversity, for example. You have what we call the Convention of Biological Diversity, which is one of those international global frameworks that really works towards conserving biodiversity and halting biodiversity loss. And even though this is at an international level, countries become parties to this convention, and then they have to translate now this convention into national policies or contextualize it in their countries in what we call national biodiversity action plans. Um, so through this, these are the kinds of policies that are in existence. And on combating desertification, we have the United Nations Convention on Combating Desertification, for example, and the same like the CBD. Countries also are parties to this, and these frameworks give like an international orientation or guidance on how countries can work towards combating these policies, and then countries can embrace this and trickle it down in their countries or in their context. But also from country to country, you have like different policies that speaks to sustainable management of forests. Like for example, in most countries, you have a forestry law that gives guidance on how forestry is the forest is to be managed. For example, you have like now many countries taking up commitment on what is known as the the bond challenge towards maybe like restoring many hectares of forest, and all these efforts are towards curbing forest loss. So in terms of policies, we have policies at different levels. So you have policies at the international level that guides countries as a whole, and then countries can take this and trickle down at the national level. But then you also have national policies and laws that are put in place by the different countries. But then you also have voluntary commitments that are taken by businesses, for example, to be able to promote their, their products. For example, in the forestry sector, you have what we call FSC that looks at really giving guidance in terms of forest management. And within these, companies have like obligations that they have to meet if they want to if they want their wood to be certified, for example, FSC. So all these are different sets of frameworks that have been put in place to facilitate the sustainable management of forests and also to contribute in curbing biodiversity loss. So what we need to do actually really is to make sure that these policies, for example, are implemented or at the different levels, at national levels and at the international level.
Wow, thank you for giving us great insights on the different policies available that support the SDG 15, and then how people should work and different organizations should work to implementing some of these policies. All right, moving forward, and like we all know that youth are usually the strength of any nation, and check how a nation will go far, or let me say how a nation will go far will depend, it will be determined by the strength of their youth and how their youth are involved in developmental issues. But then, Fideline, I want us to bring the issue of youth into perspective to what we are discussing right now, and the involvement and what the involvement of youth should be in supporting Goal 15 and other environmental issues. Let me ask you, Fideline, what do you think the roles of youth should be in supporting this goal that we are talking about today?
So generally, I would say that youth are already doing a lot when it comes to supporting the SDGs generally and environmental issues globally. For example, Oluwa, what you are doing right now is raising awareness on the importance of the SDGs and on environmental sustainability generally, which is very important. So I feel like youths in different countries all over the world are doing a lot when it comes to promoting environmental sustainability, conservation of biodiversity, and so on. We are seeing youth already in international spaces advocating for the mainstreaming of the voices of youth on the issues, because actually maybe our generation and the future, our children are going to be the ones that are going to face the impact of all the decisions that are being taken on with regards to the environment, with regards to biodiversity, and so on. And so I first of all want to say there's already a lot that youth are doing at the national, regional, and international level. We are seeing them in policy spheres. We are seeing also youth implementing innovative ideas when it comes to environmental sustainability, like recycling of waste, sustainable transformation, in different areas, just environmental awareness, like what you're doing, and also in like building partnerships, which is also an important part of the SDGs, the importance of forging partnerships for the achievements of the goal. So I feel like what we need to do more as young people, first is really to continue what we are doing. But one of the other things is also really like to engage other young people, like not just about a single young person, but trying to bring in as more young people as possible into discussing and taking actions with regards to environmental sustainability generally. It is about like participating in localizing the SDGs. The SDGs were done at a global international level. So youth can take this and trickle down in their local communities. For example, we had some communities or young people in Cameroon translate the SDGs into local languages. That meant you were taking this to the local communities and familiarizing those in the local areas about the SDGs. And it was a way of engaging like some of those youths that were in the rural areas and not online on what the SDGs were about. So these are the kinds of issues that we can try to make sure everyone, because one of the main things about the SDG is also we are leaving no one behind. So we are all moving together. So as young people, we need to take those efforts, for example, to engage like all the different youths in different areas. We also need to participate in the policy processes in our countries. For example, at the local level or at the national level, when the government is discussing issues around biodiversity, for example, sustainable management of forests, for example, we need to be in these spaces and contributing and also sharing our experiences of on what we have learned and also giving a perspective with regards to youth voices, for example. And also we can be part of monitoring to see if our government is actually really standing up to some of the commitments that they took at the international level. We can be part of implementation, we can be part of monitoring, and we can also hold our governments accountable. So I think there are many levels that youth can participate. We can participate in policy making processes. We can participate in the implementation of the SDGs, like what you're doing right now. You have youth with different organizations working on education. There are some working on ending poverty, which is one of the goals. There are some working on issues around climate change. So you can decide to pick an SDGs and work on. You can decide to plant a tree, which is practical. You can plant it online, you can plant it virtually, like I see some people doing. So these are just different actions that youth can do. We have seen some youth working on maybe clean up campaigns in their localities, like cleaning their beaches, cleaning the roads and all of that. So these are practical actions that young people can take. But more importantly, we really need to continuously be a part of the implementation processes. Yeah.
Okay, Grace.
Thank you, Ma. That was really amazing. I really picked the part where you mentioned that youths in Cameroon, they were translating the SDGs to the local language so as to engage the localities more, and they should be more aware about the SDGs. So what I picked again was that this SDG 15, you have to be environmentally aware about it. Like you have to make conscious efforts towards it. So are there like hindrances to promoting this goal? And if there are any hindrances, what are they?
So generally, not just SDG 15, but I feel like maybe most of the SDGs, like the overall, we'll see like every year there's a sustainable development report that is produced by the UN that gives like progress on the implementation of the different SDGs. Like I said at the beginning, the SDGs had to flow from 2015 to 2030. And so far, with regards to SG 15, the trends are showing that there has been like stagnant progress under this goal, and like almost all regions in the world are facing significant challenges in attaining this goal. Like, for example, we are seeing the continuous decline with regards to forest cover. For example, we have talked of deforestation, and most of this is with regards to like conversion of forest to agricultural expansion. So we have like a lot of cases where forest is cut down for agricultural expansion and all of that. So I think like this is one of the main hindrances when we look at like development models of different countries. Like we need like what is a development model? Are we thinking sustainability in our development model? Sometimes the focus is so much on economic growth, but then not on environmental sustainability. So this is where we need to do the balance. But also one other big challenge is with regards to, like it's been argued, like COVID was a big hindrance to the achievement of the SDGs, be it SDG 15 or most of the other SDGs, because then like all attention was diverted towards COVID. So COVID also was a big issue, and we also have issues around instability that is also a hindrance to this goal. So I feel like these are some of the things that I challenge that we really need to deal with at this point. Like how post COVID, for example, how do we look at maybe issues now around sustainability? And I think like this is also one of the focus of the global biodiversity framework now that is being negotiated. And I also feel like one of the biggest challenge is with regards to our production and consumption pattern. This is going to have this has a big impact on whether like SDG 15 is achieved or not. So we need to make up our mind to produce sustainably and also to consume sustainably if we are thinking of really achieving this goal by 2030.
Wow, wow, that's great. Thank you so much for giving us great insight on the topic we are focusing on today, that is people and SDG 15. We are so grateful. Thank you so much, Fideline, for sharing great insights on this topic. All right, before I ask for your final words, Fideline, can you tell us about your organization and some of the things they do?
So basically, I work with WWF, which is a conservation organization. So our focus is basically on creating a world where humans live in harmony with nature. So we work on forest protection, biodiversity protection for the benefit of the environment and people. So we look at issues around forest, around wildlife, around fresh water. We also do a lot of work around education, engaging communities in different aspects, and just making sure our communities are part of everything we are doing. So we also work on policy processes at the national level in countries where we have offices, and also at the international level on all these different aspects. So we work in the field, we work at the regional level, we work at the international level to promote biodiversity conservation for the benefit of people and nature.
Wow, wow, that's great. Okay, we are about drawing the curtain on today's Green Talk. Can we have your final words on the show, Fidelis?
Um, it's really been great sharing with you guys, Olua. But just to say, like, we are already 7 years into the implementation of the SDGs, and actually midway into the implementation of the SDGs. But we are still far away from the targets and the objectives that we set for ourselves in 2015, for example. And as we move towards this is partly due to instability, COVID, and then other issues, just to name a few. But I feel that as we move towards 2030, we must continuously take up steps and actions as individuals, as communities, as governments, as businesses, as young people, to drive forward the implementation of the SDGs at all levels. So it's not just about talking that we have to achieve the SDGs by 2030. It's about taking action. And no action is too little. Everything you do, everything you do leaves a footprint on the environment. So we need to take that conscious decision and take conscious actions towards living sustainably towards living sustainably. Sorry, yeah.
Wow, thank you so much, Fideline. Grace, any words from you to Fideline, finally?
Yes, thank you so much, Ma. It's been really educative and enlightening. Like I really got a lot from the talk. Thank you, Ma.
You're welcome, Grace.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us today, and to all our audience, we want to sincerely appreciate you for joining us and for joining Fideline too on today's edition of our Green Talk. And we hope you've learned one or two things on people and the SDGs, and also SDG 15 particularly, which is our focus on this show. All right. Thank you so much, and we look out to another time on this show. Please join us next month on another edition of our Green Talk, and we want to say thank you for always joining us at Eden World Conservation Initiative. Thank you.
Thank you.